In 2013, Graham acquired Geneviève, a 1956 Renault Frégate, just in time for New Year's Eve. She was in a disheveled state, partially disassembled, but came with a treasure trove of spare parts, including trims, auto glass, and gearboxes. Graham had known of her for years and finally secured her for restoration. His plan? Strip the car down to a bare shell, mount it on a homemade rotisserie for cleaning, repairs, and a fresh coat of paint before reinstalling the running gear. With most parts on hand, aside from engine components, Graham aims to rebuild the interior from scratch using period-correct fabrics, flooring, and roof lining. He's also fabricating rubber bushes and mountings himself using liquid polyurethane, avoiding the need for difficult-to-find parts. The car came with an impressive array of spare parts, including 4 sets of front and rear windscreens, newly chromed bumpers, spare gearboxes, differentials, body trims, a complete extra set of doors and panels, and a 2.1-liter engine, along with many additional parts too numerous to mention. After stripping the body shell, 17 non-life-threatening rust repair points were found. The car is mostly straight, with one previous collision repair in the rear right corner. The original doors have delaminating putty, but are otherwise sound. Some parts will need to be remade unless necessary bits can be sold or traded. A rotted cast alloy piece is needed, along with a set of bumper overriders. The goal is to restore the original gauge console and steering wheel, while repairs are required for the grille to fit the available front panel. The first task was cleaning rat droppings and dust. The car is stripped to a bare shell, with the engine coming out next week. The bonnet, boot lid, and guards are primed. 9 rust repairs are done and the running gear is being rejuvenated. These cars have serious lumps of metal, weighing 1,400 kilograms compared to a 660 kilograms Dauphine. The rear trailing arms are enormous next to an R10 brake disc. The brake drums have plenty of thickness, so they're heading to the machine shop for a true-up. The front end is equally massive, likely weighing 80 to 100 kilograms. Welded rust repairs are underway, mostly in tough spots. Under the windscreen rubber, rust was cut out, a new piece welded in, ground back, and leaded. It still needs a plastic filler wipe for finishing. A hole in the firewall was patched by welding a plate inside. It was filled with MIG welding, ground back, and will need a plastic filler wipe. The engine and gearbox were removed using a makeshift setup involving an aluminum plank and chain block. Despite the setup, removal went smoothly. The motor still turns with a crank handle. The engine bay looked rough, so the wiring loom will be discarded. After degreasing and wet sanding, the original black paint revealed Renault's green primer, still intact after 58 years. The battery box is in great shape with no repairs needed. This rotisserie, made from scrap, allows easy movement and full access for repairs and cleaning. Weighing 460 kilograms stripped, the body shell needs a sturdy rotisserie to prevent accidents. This mess will take a week to sort out, with plenty of rust repairs needed. The process involves extensive cleaning and scraping, removing the steering box and arms, and checking the fuel and brake lines to ensure everything is in good condition. The floor crossmember under the driver's seat was rusted out on the bottom, so the damaged section was cut out and plated. The firewall crossmember was treated for durability, supporting the clutch and brake pedals. Initial rust repairs increased from 17 to 28, mainly under the car. The factory underbody spray was reinstated with Ormanoid Black Jack, and the entire underbody will receive a coat of matte black paint. After a big effort, the body shell is off the rotisserie, fully repaired and solid. It's now in primer, ready for trial fitting of the doors and other panels. The 88x88 piston and liner kit arrived safely, considered quite rare. Due to scarce Frégate parts, front-end bushes were remanufactured. Inner steel tubes were saved, and seized outer tubes matched 32mm exhaust tubing. Rubber was poured in using a jig, setting in 15 minutes and fully curing in a week. A small rust hole was too thin to weld, so it was soldered with 50/50 plumber's solder using a butane lamp and baker's fluid. Excess was sanded, and the flux diffused to prevent future corrosion. All the body panels have been repaired and refitted. The front and rear panels below the bumper were heavily dented from paddock bashing, but were straightened successfully. The rear indicators were removed. The car will be inspected for minor flaws, filled and wet sanded, with high-fill primer planned for Sunday. The front end has been reassembled and will be wheeled under the car for future reattachment. Some smaller, silent block bushes were poured in situ. Front wheel cylinders are still awaited from Germany, but progress is being made toward getting the car back on four wheels. The rear trailing arms and parts are ready for installation once the body shell is finished and painted. Assembled from old, new, and manufactured parts, with custom restraining straps from an industrial manufacturer. The parts stash includes new brake shoes, seals, bearings, and spare springs and shocks. Geneviève received 3 coats of spray putty and a black show coat. After sanding, shadows and marks remained, so another 3 heavy coats were applied. The 58-year-old body panels are in good condition, but minor flaws remain. Evenings are spent cleaning car parts with scrapers, brushes, and wax remover. The deceptively small 4-speed gearbox won't be rebuilt yet, as it works well and doesn't leak. 3 spares are available if needed. The throwout bearing is a ball race, and the gearbox is painted British Racing Green. More British Racing Green. The engine rebuild will begin in spare time soon. The steering box has some free play, so it will be open to check for wear. A spare box is available for parts. The parts, though covered in rust, grease, and grime for decades, cleaned up like new. Their quality engineering means little wear or damage, despite the car's history of paddock bashing. Geneviève is back on solid ground, resting on casters so she can still be moved around the workshop with ease. The homemade rotisserie handled the weight effortlessly and is now retired, with the body shell sitting low, making it easier to work on. The front suspension assembly was wheeled under the car and bolted up smoothly, proving this method to be much easier than rebuilding on stands. Most panels have been sanded, painted, and prepped for final finishing. The body shell is undergoing the same, with plans to spray soon. The Frégate's engine is a 671-1 21145cc, featuring a 3-bearing crank and wet liners. Rebuilding the engine has been a challenge due to limited parts availability. After extensive negotiations, shell bearings, a piston and liner kit, a clutch plate, and gaskets for the head and exhaust manifold were sourced. Most other gaskets were made in-house. The crankshaft was in good condition but required a regrind for first undersized bearings. The cylinder head had significant corrosion around the water passages, necessitating extensive welding for restoration. Parts from 2 spare heads provided additional springs, valves, and guides, resulting in a near-new finish. The best carburetor was selected for reconditioning, along with the manifolds and distributor. A manual solenoid starter motor, controlled by a knob on the dash, is used, adding a personal touch. The chrome, stainless steel, and alloy parts are being restored with extensive polishing to remove 58 years of damage and oxidation, intentionally leaving some patina. The plastic steering column cover was sunburned and cracked, so damaged areas were reinforced with resin-soaked linen. After curing, the linen was trimmed, coated with color-matched resin, and then sanded and polished to match the dash color.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more restoration projects. We appreciate your support.